Yeah, all eyes today are at 10 a.m. going to be on This Morning, because that's when Holly Willoughby finally makes her return to the sofa without Phillip Schofield. She's going to be joined by Josie Gibson today by her side. Josie will with her today and Tuesday, and then Wednesday and Thursday we're told it will be Craig Doyle next to her. And you mentioned that she's going to brush over this, but actually what we're hearing now is that she's prepared a speech to open today's show at 10 a.m. and she's going to address the scandal, name Phillip himself, and she wants to do it for the viewers to regain their trust and speak about him in what we're told will be an open and honest way. So that will be really interesting to see today, and I think it probably will impact some of their viewing figures today, because I can't see not a lot of people are going to want to tune in to hear what she's got to say and how she's going to address this.
I disagree with you, Ellie. I think they'll have very big viewing figures today. Simply people will be tuned in to see what she has to say about your man. And so I actually think reverse. I think the viewing figures will be high, certainly for the first part of the programme. What do you think?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, definitely. I think people are going to tune in, see what she says, see how she handles it, and also see how she reacts working with Josie. We've seen multiple different combinations of presenters working on screen, but I think what's happening now is that ITV This Morning producers are trying to figure out who long term is going to be his permanent replacement. Josie, is up there in the name list. Craig, who she's going to host with later this week, but also Alison Hammond's name up there. And also I think that her statement this morning obviously is going to come off the back that at the end of last week, Alison was very emotional when they addressed Phillip Schofield's admission of this affair on screen. And so everyone will be comparing how Holly reacts to how Alison reacted. People praised Alison for being really honest and raw and real and saying, I'm in this really conflicted place where I love him as a friend, but what he's done is wrong. How do I deal with that? And also, this is bigger than just Phillip Schofield leaving now. As we know, the weeks have rolled on and it's more become this whole discussion about workplace toxicity and what's going on there. And also, just over the weekend, This Morning editor Martin Frizzell has said that the reason these comments of toxicity are coming out is because scores are being settled. They put a statement out, ITV, saying we have a robust mechanism in place for complaints to be raised, and that what we're hearing from This Morning team is that they don't recognise this picture of a toxic culture that's been painted about the show. So the discussion's much wider. So it'll be interesting to see whether Holly Willoughby addresses the Phillip Schofield drama, or actually what's become more of this kind of Me Too movement on workplace toxicity.
Ellie, I thought it was really interesting you've brought that up as well, that Martin Frizzell, when he was asked, anything to say about the latest on the story, he came out and said, no, we've got a case, we've got an independent review into this, can't possibly comment. Pushed a few more times, he was being asked on his doorstep, and eventually he tied his colours to the mast and showed everybody what he really thinks, which was a very partisan position. And he said, well, I think people reading between the lines can see there are scores here being settled. So he clearly doesn't accept that there was a problem within the organisation, which I think in itself is a problem, is it not?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really difficult if you've got that many people coming out, and it's not just that named people. There have been reports across the board from people who are talking out anonymously because they're still scared of, the repercussions of what they might say in terms of work, which is again another issue. I think now you have a mountain of different people from all different aspects, not just on screen but off screen, saying, "No, actually, I had a really bad experience there. Maybe it wasn't a year ago or 2 years ago, but my experience at ITV has been really difficult. It's impacted my life really negatively." And so to say that scores are being settled kind of is diminishing their experiences, and I think that's a really negative thing to do. So hopefully, like you said, there is this investigation going on externally. It's a law firm's been brought in to do it, a barrister. Hopefully that will help, because I think until someone independently looks at what happens, looks at mistakes that were made, and looks at the culture there now and what changes need to be made, I don't see how ITV can move forward with a good reputation. They need to kind of wipe the slate clean almost, and the only way they can do that is with the full transparency.
What about the Phillip Schofield fight back? I mean, we've been here, there's a selfie released of him over the weekend with his mum. We're also hearing people like Jeremy Clarkson coming out and saying this is the biggest witch hunt I've ever seen.
Clarkson's saying that?
Yeah?
Well, Clarkson didn't work there. What does he know? Nothing.
But I just wondered if is his fight back gathering momentum now?
It's not see, the thing about this, Isabel, is, and, again, I can feel that I can say Schofield does not tell the truth. He's admitted he is a liar, and there's so many. I mean, you just have to see the messages and the emails and the texts that I've been sent over the past week. I think he's getting off very, very lucky, but he relies on scaring people with legal letters and whatever, and whether that works or it doesn't. People have been saying about me, they say, oh, well, if you knew, why didn't you blow the whistle before? I didn't know. I've said this clearly in interviews and whatever. You hear unsubstantiated rumours, but nothing to prove. But then when he told me he was gay, I thought, well, what's the problem? This is not an issue. Why are we making an issue out of this? And I, like everybody else, he lied to me. And I was happy to stand by him until I found out he was lying, and there was much more to it than that. So it's not, this is not, don't, you know, I didn't know there was anybody involved. When I did know there was someone involved in this, I took action about it. But this is not about him being gay. Not in the slightest is this about him being gay. Not in the slightest. Over to you, Ellie.
Yeah, I mean, and also I want to say that when one of the interviews he did with The Sun, he himself said that although he lied, he actually believed somebody assumed something was going on and didn't say anything. So he knew he was kind of getting away with it at that point in time but why are you getting away with it? It's because you're in a position of power, and it's because you're senior to the person that you're involved with. And so, you know, are people turning a blind eye for that reason? And I think there is just so much that's come out of this. And the more he does interviews, the more he talks about it, the more it keeps it in the limelight. So as much as he says, you know, oh, you know, I'm feeling really bad, and obviously mental health is so important. We really hope nothing bad happens to him in that sense. But at the same time, then why are you doing interviews with multiple outlets talking about it and keeping the narrative going, and also then leaving people with more questions that you are leaving open? Because he said something like, I remember the BBC interview, they said, is there more to come? And he didn't say no. He just said this is his biggest, sorriest secret. And again, that kind of isn't ending any of the conversation. It's okay, well, what others do you have that aren't as bad or as big, but are there and are going to come out? And so I just think he's letting this narrative continue. When he's replying to people on Instagram stories, that's like really worrying. It's kind of like, if you want to maintain your dignity through this and move on and not have people talk about it anymore and let the kind of land lie, then you need to kind of step away from it and let this roll out and let people move on from this. If you're going to keep addressing it, you're going to keep hitting back, then I don't think that's a good thing. But I do think it's good that he's got some supporters out there, in the sense that they're saying the points that they're raising are, until this young man involved speaks out, you know, we kind of have to take it as it is. And also a witch hunt, which I think that I'm hoping they're saying is more of a social media witch hunt, is obviously a negative thing. And I'm just glad that I've heard that Phillip Schofield's turned his phone off. And I think that's the best way forward when it comes to this, because sometimes you can't stop that barrage of information coming. And as much as he's done something bad that he's openly admitting to is bad, you don't want to push someone to certain extremes.
Well, he said in his 40-odd years of broadcasting, he made one mistake. He had one kiss that he shouldn't have had. I just put it to anybody watching or listening out there. If you have kissed Phillip Schofield, let us know. Let us know today. We'll see if that figure of one grows to the figure where I believe it is probably at. But